Hitting revenue targets is hard and requires constant hustle. Last quarter's success is already forgotten. Learn the mindset and tactics of today's most successful revenue producers in B2B marketing and sales. We call this the revenue hustle. I'm your host, Tom Hessen, navigating you on this journey. Today's show is sponsored by 9 Lenses, an interactive assessment platform that enables you to add instant value to your buyers and allows your sales team to tailor business conversations focused on the pain points each and every time. Check them out at 9lenses.com.
Hi, this is your host, Tom Hessen with the Revenue Hustle, and I'm excited to bring Mike Weir as our next guest on the podcast. Mike, welcome to the Revenue Hustle.
Thanks so much, Tom. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have a conversation with you, Mike, and you've got a really interesting background that we're going to dive into today. Currently, you're the Chief Revenue Officer at G2, and why don't you give us a full intro about yourself?
Absolutely. So I joined G2 just over 2 years ago as the Chief Revenue Officer to help as we continue to scale our global software marketplace, working with all of our clients globally via our customer success, sales, and partnerships organization. Prior to that, I'd spent 8 years at LinkedIn helping build out a portion of the LinkedIn Marketing Solutions business. And before that, I was actually a marketer in tech for a decade plus. Most notably, I had spent a lot of years at CDW helping build out some of the segment marketing across the government team and the commercial division.
So marketer turned CRO, huh?
Absolutely.
I think are you a unicorn?
I would say probably so. There's not just one, but there's
a few, yeah.
Sort of rare from what I'm finding.
Now that's great perspective. Well, great. Well, you know how we do this on the Revenue Hustle. We do revenue rules. So why don't you let us know what your first revenue rule is?
Sales cannot do it alone.
Okay, unpack that.
Yeah, this is really, really embodying the entirety of my career. I think what I found as I transitioned over to the sales side was I learned a heck of a lot of what I didn't truly get when I was on the marketing side. And when you're on the marketing side, you're constantly, hopefully, if you're a good marketer, battling to build a really good relationship with the sales organization to understand how do we create a unified go-to-market? Mm-hmm. Because sales, they can do a lot, but they cannot build an amazing customer experience at massive global scale on their own. They need marketing's help, and marketing absolutely needs sales help. And so that's one of the biggest rules that I've been focused on since the beginning of my career, is making sure that there is a really good alignment between marketing and sales to create a go-to-market that helps your customers and informs your prospects of why they should be working with you.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a tendency for sales to sometimes think they can do it because, again, they're doing prospecting, right? So they're kind of doing their own mini marketing, right? Which is just outbound, sort of activities. Tell me about what you're saying about how sales, they can't build this experience on their own. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Or what did you see them trying to do?
Yeah, I think that, well, in the early days when I transitioned, when I was at CDW, I think a lot of it was just make more calls, talk to more people. It's like, whoa, this is a really difficult to scale model if you have to hire thousands and thousands of people to own every single customer interaction. And so that's the foundational one, is like, hey, just let go a bit. Let others do a more scaled education and outreach approach. For example, at G2, we're launching G2 University, and it's all about helping educate customers on how to use our platform exceptionally well. Now, do I want my CSMs, my RMs having those conversations with customers? Yeah, but do I also want marketing to do an amazing job of packaging up all the best practices, all the latest and greatest, and helping advocate for that at scale to all of my customers? Do I want them helping me include that in every onboarding experience? Absolutely. Because frankly, as a CRO, I know there's chinks in the armor. I know some people are not going to have that conversation,
Right.
but I want the customer to know it. And I know some people are just not going to be good at having that conversation. So them having learning materials that they can share also helps them grow and get better at having really productive conversations. And so it's a really practical example of one of the things that
Yeah,
we're
it is.
doing right now to pair, scaled education to help all of our global clients, all of our brand new customers to really ramp up, to really use the platform on their own time without having to interact with
Person.
my sales pods if they don't need to.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of, the benefit of marketing and digital marketing now, being able to reach, hundreds or thousands of people with a consistent message, right? Whereas with sales, right, or your CS organization, it's a very different delivery mechanism, right? Which it'll come out invariably, it'll be different with every person. Now, be a more personalized conversation, maybe more tailored, but again, you can't scale that and you can't control the quality. So it's a great example, as you said, of bringing marketing's abilities and pairing it with sales and CS.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's tons of them, but that's just a very recent one that I'm excited about. That's launching here. So
And so, what are some of the other challenges you've seen with that? Again, your perspective of being a marketer, having gone to sales. What were some of those eye-opening things that you may not have realized as a marketer that now, shaped your perspective as a CRO?
yeah, one thing I got, but I got it way better after I transitioned was I got the conflict of who gets credit. And as a marketer, I wanted to make sure we weren't taking too much credit because it's the most infuriating thing when you're on the sales side and you've been working with a customer for 9 months on an opportunity. And all of a sudden a lead comes in and marketing's like, boom, I did that. And it's like, no, I've been having 9 months of conversations about this. Like, thanks for the additional, like, hey, it got me a new contact, got them some new information that I hadn't talked to them about. Like, so there's an assist here, but
Right.
please don't come in and claim credit and celebrate how marketing made this, $500,000 deal happen. So that principle of like who gets credit is typically the first point of unraveling in marketing and sales alignment. The part that I got better when I came over to the revenue side is a concept that I've written and talked to clients about is just sales saturation. I don't think marketers are always thinking about how much time it takes to properly follow up on a lead, to properly work an opportunity and help educate a customer.
Yeah.
And typically a multi-threaded opportunity, like it's not just one person, you're talking to multiple, if not even dozens of people at a company to work on a single opportunity. And so the relationship starts breaking down when you're not thinking about sales saturation. How many leads, how many opportunities am I routing over to any given salesperson? And do they actually have the time to work on them? Because that's the other point of friction that bubbles up a ton.
Sure.
With a revenue marketing team. They're like, dude, I've sent over 1,000 gold leads. Like, these are amazing. It's like, yeah, but 200 of them have gone to the same like 5 people. They don't have time to work on those leads. So like, hey, there's a breakdown here. I need to distribute them better, potentially. I need you to focus on other segments, other regions for now while we work through some of this. But you're ultimately starting to create, through lack of communication and lack of alignment on the tracking of your programs and go-to-market, where one team is claiming success and the other team is like, no, this ain't working.
Right. And so where are you seeing, we all know that buyers are doing more and more research online before they ever talk to sales. Maybe they don't even want to talk to sales, but that's still the predominant method to buy enterprise, software or a service like G2. So how are you managing that kind of just buying dynamic between partnering with marketing and the sales team?
Yeah, it's 100% true. All the research from my LinkedIn days and then even my G2 days has shown buyers, they want to control, I think everybody has their stat, but it's like 80% of the process, right? They want to do a ton of research. We see it on G2 within our own buyer experience data all the time. They will go deep into the process before they start doing comparisons, before they start the bake off and engage with a vendor. So to me, what that means is it further reinforces why sales can't do this alone. You're going to be highly inefficient trying to get somebody on the phone who is not ready to talk to you. You can be efficient in still getting them access to the educational materials that they need to learn about your solution, about your approach, about your advantages. And so really engaging in different ways via digital means, where marketing is a huge, huge partner in this process that creates the materials that become accessible, and they build presence in the place that these companies, that these prospects, that the contacts we're working with are organically going, right? So you mentioned G2 is a place people go. So, you know, building your presence in G2, building out your voice and presence in platforms like LinkedIn for B2B focused companies, especially, it's like, this is where they're at.
Right.
So go and be a part of the conversation, be accessible. Don't gate all of your content. That was one of the first things we started changing. It was like, all right, if they don't want to talk to me, then I can't put up this artificial barrier that prevents them from learning about me and why they should care, why they should eventually talk to me. And then the second really big one is, you know, again, part of what we focus a ton on, it's intent signals, like using intent signals to understand how far along in the process is a prospect, what is a customer focused on right now, so that you can increase the relevance of your outreach and you can be timely.
Right.
Don't reach out too early. Don't reach out too late. Make sure that you're on point with your message and talking about something that they actually care about when you do reach out.
Yeah, and I think that's an important part about where maybe I've seen the shift from marketing to sales, is that we're trying to, you know, sales wants quality, right? In terms of let's call it the leads that marketing would provide, right? Whereas historically marketing has been incentivized in more volume metrics, where that's starting to, you know, shift over time to be, you know, the marketing may, again, sign up for a revenue number, right? Or how much revenue is marketing contributing? It gets back to your whole point about, you know, who gets the credit, right? That's where some of that friction comes in. But it's this idea that, you know, if marketing can focus on quality, right, and that's what sales wants, those are the deals are likely going to close anyway, right? So, like, how have you navigated this sort of, you know, dynamic between marketing and sales?
Yeah, we do planning together. We do monthly pipeline reviews together. And we talk about what are the conversion rates looking like across the entire funnel by the three channels from an acquisition perspective, by the three channels that are contributing to that pipeline. So we're not just looking at, hey, marketing, what are you giving us? Like, you know, help us out. It's what's going on within the marketing channel, what's going on within our business development channel, what's going on within our kind of AE sourced direct channel. And we're looking at conversion rates. We're looking at progression of leads. We're looking at progression of, you know, meetings booked to then progressing into opportunities. And so having that joint planning that sets goals together, where we actually sit down and say, here's what our aspiration is for acquisition revenue this year. Look at our historic conversion rates. Now let's back our way into what should the marketing goal be? What should the BDR goal be? What should the AE specific goal be? And then we look at, you know, on the marketing side, they are focused a ton on quality right now. Like, we actually have said, if you could deliver, and Amanda Malco, our CMO, and I just literally talked about this, like, if we could just increase conversion percent by like 5 points, that's going to prevent us from having to source, you know, X hundreds more leads.
Right.
And I would rather source really quality leads, get my team into quality conversations with folks that are ready, with folks that are interested, not with folks that we're going to annoy for like 3 months while they're trying to educate themselves.
Right.
Because I've been that person that gets super annoyed. I get a little prickly sometimes with all the BDR outreach to me. That's cheesy and bad. So it's like, I don't want my team to be put in that situation. I want our prospects to have a good experience. So we are kind
Yeah.
of optimizing the funnel and really thinking about quality first.
Well, and I completely get that. I mean, especially as sales, you don't want to work stuff that you know isn't ready, right? It's a waste of time, all those sorts of things. What are some of the signals that or how do you define what's ready, right? Because we had, for the longest time, we had kind of these lead scoring systems, right? This digital footprint. Oh, they looked here, they didn't go to the career page. They spent, we add up all these points. Like, how do you think about lead readiness or kind of lead quality before, okay, now it's time to pass that to sales?
Yeah. We're still evolving our thinking on this, but we use many of the techniques that you just referred to, right? I don't know if I've seen, even in folks that have absolutely amazing acquisition engines. And I mean, ZoomInfo has built such a strong kind of market engagement process themselves, and of course their products support it. But even there, you kind of struggle with the signals not always adding up, but the signals can be incredibly, incredibly valuable at getting a lot more qualified at bats. So we do start with, what are the signals showing us? Like, we're not going to route stuff just because they came to a webinar, right? We're going to put nurture streams in place that create multiple points of engagement, that create the opportunity for us to ask some custom questions, because ultimately we want to see that the signals show they are far enough along that they might want to engage with a salesperson to learn more. And so we're kind of bucketing, is this thought leadership content? Is this more middle funnel content? How many engagement points do they have? Is it the same person? Is it different people across the organization? All of this means, like, hey, it could be 10 people that are looking, but they're all looking at early stage stuff because it's a brand new tech that they're kicking around the idea of, like, should we look at buying this? And like, I always throw out, like, virtualization back in the day, there was so many signals that this was a massive, massive market, but it was all people figuring out, what the heck is virtualization?
Right.
It's like, cool buzzword, don't know what it means. And then cloud came out and the same stuff. So there's some false signals if you're just looking at people engaging with thought leadership content. It's false signals if it's just volume of people, because again, they could be looking all at educational materials. So we want to kind of blend the number of people, the type of content that they're engaging with, and the BANT criteria. It's very tried and true, like budget, authority, need, timeline. And so if we actually get answers to those questions via custom questions within forms or via our BDR or SDR outreach even, then those signals all add up to say, okay, great. Now we're going to put you in contact. The one thing that we use, like a lot of other software companies, that circumvents the whole process is if a client just directly says, I want a demo. And so we love giving the option for, a couple of different call to actions.
Right.
Do you want a demo or do you want to learn more? Right. It's like, hey, this is choose your own adventure. If you want to learn more, totally fine. Like, when you're ready for a demo, it's there, make the request, we'll get it booked right away, get that demo, and see how ready you are to work with us or any other software company.
Well, yeah, I'm curious because I have a strong perspective on this. Is when they say I want a demo, right? That's like the tried and true software call to action. What do you think the customer really is saying, or what their expectation is? And oftentimes it's a first conversation, right? It's kind of, you're right. So how have you coached sales team to think about what does that meeting look like when someone says, I want a demo?
Yeah, we want to make sure we open that conversation either in email leading up to it. It's like, hey, thanks for booking the meeting with us. Like, we use different scheduling tools. So it's like, hey, thanks for booking that meeting with us. What are you hoping to get out of this? What are you most interested in learning about? So either via an email in advance or at the beginning of the call, it's like, I need to know, what is your expectation for this demo? And then I've got to go in that direction. If I have time, I'm trying to weave in some of my core messages and pivot it back to some other things that I want to try to accomplish. But more than anything, we want to coach our team to try and just meet their objective.
Yeah.
They're asking for this for a purpose. if they just want to know about, like from a G2 perspective, if they just want to know about our review platform experience, how that guides, their position on our research grids to validate them as, a momentum leader, an overall leader, it's like, great, let's just talk about that. If they want to dive in right away to like, how does buyer intent with G2 work? How is it different? Show it to me. It's like, great, we're going to go there. The problem I see with, demos, and I've done many of these, is like, they're on script, they go through the standard, they can't deviate. And I walk off the call with more questions than I came to it with.
Right.
And that's a huge failed experience.
Well, and I find that more often than not, people, when they say request a demo, it is like, I have questions, I'm interested, and I want to, it's not like, show me how the software works. It's usually not what. Now, again, there are times like that, and that's where you see grumpy people online talking, on LinkedIn about, I want to see the software, right? But oftentimes as a seller, or a lot of times as buyers, they don't know what they're seeing, right? So if they looked at, my software at 9 Lenses or someone else's software that looks like ours, they're not smart enough to interpret the differences or the nuances, because they're operating at like 20% knowledge, right? So if it, so like, I'm always of the opinion of, I call it a solution presentation. Like, a demo to me is a solution presentation where I'm going to show you how my software is going to solve your problems. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a harbor tour, and you're like just cruising around the harbor, and you're like, well, here's this feature and module, and they may ask some questions, but it's never connected to a problem, right? And then they go off and they take that 20% knowledge of understanding and say, oh, that's not a fit for me because of X, Y, and Z, but they're really not informed, or they don't have the ability to make that final conclusion.
Yeah, you make an excellent point, because a poorly run demo can qualify you out when it's the exact opposite that you're trying to qualify yourself in.
Yeah.
And it is wise for everybody to think about, what's the question you can be asking to just simply assess what knowledge is the individual coming in with. And we use very simple questions like, do you know G2? What do you know us for? Have you worked with us before? Okay, great. Like, give me some of the basic context. Now let's talk about like, what caught your interest, so we can hone in on that to start.
Yeah.
And then, time allowing, we'll broaden it back out to tell more of our story, more of our capabilities. But I hear you 100%. Like, harbor analogy is great. If you're just doing a tour, at the end of it, you may feel good, like, oh, that was an interesting tour, but you're going to have no idea or recollection of what the landmarks are you just saw, because you're just sitting there like, just saw a bunch of stuff, seemed kind of cool.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Like, I'm going to head home now.
Exactly. So that's something I've learned over time, just with demos, and it's hard to get right, because again, people come in now with more knowledge. Some people like to engage early, some people like to engage late, right? And you have to kind of know what you're dealing with, and if you get it wrong with either one of those buyers, it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. So now I'm just kind of curious, because you kind of own that handoff, and one other question, just as a CRO, there's a lot written about pre-qualifying leads before sending them to the AE, right? Like, how do you think about, a lead comes in, does a BDR have to get on the phone, do the BANT conversation, before they goes to an AE? Or if, let's say, someone says like, I want a demo, does that go straight to the AE, or does someone still have to kind of do the pre-qualification? Because you still could have those friction points with the buyer experience if you're not giving them what they're looking for.
Yeah. We try to use tech as much as possible to create a frictionless process. But if somebody wants to have a demo, then as we're doing the demo forms, like, we want to increasingly use things like scheduling tools to say, okay, great, it's in your control. Like, you want a demo, click this button, schedule it right away based on when works for you, right? If you want to meet tomorrow, great. If you want to meet in 2 weeks, great. So trying to use technology to create as seamless of a process as possible to have them be able to get on the phone with somebody. So that does mean we will kind of circumvent. It doesn't have to go A to B to C. Like, we will circumvent B and go right to C, which is the AE in this case. If somebody says like, I just want a demo, and like, okay, great. Our AEs are the experts at demoing our platform and getting in depth.
Right.
If we see signals, right, like, we actually look at there's a group of accounts that we kind of wall off and say, hey, these are really important clients or really strategic prospects that we're hoping to prove our value to. If this criteria is met, they should go immediately to the AE.
Yeah.
If this criteria isn't met, but it's the right account, then maybe it's going to go to the BDR first, or it might go into a nurture stream. If it feels like too early, somebody's just kicking the tires, trying to learn a little bit, it's like, great, put them into a nurture stream, get them some additional content, and then eventually the signal rises and we'll route it over appropriately. But we do have some circumvention in our process right now because it's super frustrating. It's like, hey, I just want to get a demo. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, first you have to earn the right for a demo by talking to one of our BDRs. It's like, no, I'm just not going to take that call. I'm not showing up.
Yeah. No, that's smart. I think that's the right way to do it. Well, great. That's a great rule. What's your second revenue rule, Mike?
Now, right now, more than ever, retention is the new growth lever. I think we've spent a lot of time, and I've used many analogies that refer to a prospect universe, which is fantastic. And we all love growing our market share. We all love working with more and more companies. But in tough economic times, it's always incredibly important to remind ourselves that our customers should be our biggest focus, and that we need to focus a little bit less on acquisition, and we need to keep our eye on the ball, especially when you're in the type of product where adoption dictates whether or not somebody's going to stay as a long-term customer with you. Too many software companies, too many services companies, too many other platforms, they're just happy to get the sale, hand it off, and then they're not supporting their customers.
Yeah, and I totally makes sense to me. I mean, I totally get that. I mean, and it's I guess a shame that it takes like bad economic times to then be like, oh, we got to treat our customers better. But it's natural. I mean, I get it because we're all growth oriented, right? We all have these growth numbers we have to hit, and we know the tale of it's easier to grow an existing customer than acquiring a new one, but yet we're always fascinated with new logo acquisition, and I think that's just always part of it. Like, how do you see what changes like in an organization to double down on their customers, or are you just doing more of the same, or are there new processes or value things that are delivered? Like, how does that manifest itself differently?
Yeah, I think one of the foundational things is just where you're investing your dollars in people, technology, and process. The people side of the house, if I'm really, really concerned about helping my customers be successful on G2, then I'm doing what I did since I got here. I'm tripling the number of people within my customer success organization. I am making sure that I have individuals who just live and breathe giving advice, guiding, bringing new ideas to our customers. And from a process perspective, we're using technology to be able to funnel signals to our team that says, hey, here's the next best action, right? Like, it could be a warning alert, or it could be a celebration alert. It's like something is going wrong with this relationship. And if you're managing multiple relationships, heck, even if you're just working with like one or two enterprises, you're working with probably a couple hundred people. So it's like, you got a lot of stuff to juggle. I want to help use technology and process to surface insights to you on who you could focus on, about what and when, in a similar manner to what we're trying to do in the prospect universe. But we just actually have a lot more data, and we have a lot more timely data to surface this for the people that are working with customers every day. And so that's where like things shift from, hey, we're only thinking about this in a prospect universe, to being like, okay, let's not stop at they've signed a contract. Let's build out our whole customer lifecycle management process that looks, how do we manage the implementation well? How do we help them as they're adopting? How do we do ongoing communications to inform them of new features, new products that are coming out that they could be considering, invites to events and learning opportunities, all the way through how do we help engage them at renewal and in the next upgrade, right? If they do upgrade to a different package, it's like, great, now we have to think back to what did we do at implementation to begin with, because they just bought a new product. So, in our world, we're really thinking about like, how do I create a multi-year communication plan for our customers to make sure that we're engaging in all the right times and not being overly bothersome.
Right. And I guess too, you probably have different levels of investment depending on the tier, right? Like there's probably some white glove clients, then you've got like the next rung, again, just based on their size of contract with you guys, going down to maybe even more, lighter touch self-service models, right? So you probably have tiers of those as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yep. It is. It is when I think about it from a CRO lens, just thinking about the economics of the business, we have to invest appropriately to make sure that we have the right support, but not overly supporting, so that we diminish our ability to invest in our product, in our platform, in the overall experience for our buyers, as well as our clients in our marketplace.
Yeah, one thing that I see a lot of with the CS organization is trying to upskill them to have more business or strategic conversation, because oftentimes they're stuck kind of in the features, functions, tech support. How do I do this? I need another license, whatever it is, that kind of transactional stuff. But like, as you were talking about, like, how do you get them to a position where they can give advice, right? Like not just how you do something on our technology, but, oh, you're trying to grow your, intent function or drive more leads through G2, like, or how do you upskill the team to do that?
Yeah, there's two parts to it. I mean, the first one is we really, we're even kind of thinking through this right now, is like, what does our future profile look like for people in the seat based on the direction that our platform is going in, our product set is going in? Because you could be amazing today. And this is part of my leadership pillars that I work on with my team, is like, talent management is an ongoing process. Just because you're a peak performer in our vernacular today doesn't mean you're going to be peak next year, because we're not static. Like, our offering continues to evolve. The market's use of our offering continues to evolve. You got to evolve with it. So it starts from the profile of what is going to most likely put somebody in a point of success. And then the two paths for us are, for the existing team, how ready are they? And we put sales enablement materials in place. We put training programs in place. We put collaboration sessions in place to help the existing team to continue to evolve their knowledge and their expertise. And then the second path is we look for different profiles, right? We have different profiles, like within our CSM organization, of folks we've brought in recently who would have tremendous expertise in our buyer intent. Like, they come from agency worlds, media worlds, like they get activation, they get how people run media campaigns. And that's very complementary to a lot of the people we have on the team, but it's also just like deeper knowledge because they've been living it for years.
Right.
And so running those two paths helps everybody to continue to grow within their role, to be, very successful, and, help each other out to get to where they want to be within their careers.
Yeah. And so when you layer that on kind of the growth objectives, just like, are you also looking at not just renewals, but growth within the customer base, right? And how do you go about thinking and programmatically seeking growth opportunities? Is that done through your CS function, or is that done with like the seller kind of coming back, or how do you kind of think about growth within the customer base?
Yeah, we have a pod structure. So we have client pods, different ratios depending on, the different parts of the business that you're in. But the concept is similar, where I'm going to partner. We're working together with a set of customers. And so together, as I talk about it internally, we're going to divide and conquer, right? Like, as a CSM, I am all about implementation, helping them with adoption, helping them use what they have.
Mm-hmm.
As an RM, I'm going to be helping in that process, but not in the day-to-day. Right? But I'm going to make sure that all the right people, I'm building relationships with, if the CSM is working with more the day-to-day leaders, the managers, maybe the director level teams, my RM relationship managers, hopefully, knowledgeable and engaged with the director and the VP. And it's like, hey, by the way, we got these new things coming. Like, your team's doing awesome with X. This new stuff we have coming is gonna help make X better. Should we start talking about whether or not this is a fit for you guys, whether or not you're ready for this, whether or not you're interested in this? Like, can I share more information? So the relationship managers tend to be the new idea stuff, but we don't stop our CSMs. Like, I really strongly encourage our CSMs who are experts in G2 and all of our products, and they have so many examples of customers doing awesome stuff. It's like, share that knowledge, right? Don't share confidential information, but just share, like, hey, there's a lot of companies out there that are doing Y. We should try that. We should see if it works. Like, this is a new case study we just published. Like, there's some really good techniques. We should test these things out and see if they work. And so I want the CSM doing that. And part of that is exposing them to other parts of our offering. It's like, we're seeing amazing performance uplift in media campaigns that are using buyer intent paired with G2's licensed content. It's like, what if we tested that, right? What if we changed the rotation and pulled, one of our content assets into the 5 or 6 assets that you're promoting right now, and just see how it performs relative to others? And to me, that is part of what a CSM can do really well, is just help the customer optimize to deliver the best outcome.
No, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Tell me a little bit about how you kind of navigated your career. How did you end up as a CRO?
Yeah, when I was on the marketing side, I always worked really closely with sales, right? There was just, I kind of, in early days of my career, I was with my CMO, dropped into our New York office after, this was way back, kind of right after Enron happened and things were going poorly with the economy. We were dropped into New York to help with the turnaround. And I started running field marketing, and I didn't know that much about marketing, but I was out there with the sales team. I was learning a ton about what it took to build relationships, to close deals, and trying to figure out, like, how does marketing help in that process? So from early on, I was always thinking from like a sales lens. And ultimately, I think this is truly kind of transformational for me, is like, I was thinking about the customer, right? It wasn't theoretical. It wasn't working spreadsheets and numbers to get to the outcome. It was like, all right, I've actually been in the room presenting to customers with the sales team. I've been leading workshops. Like, I see this is difficult. You've got to build trust. You've got to build a relationship to get somebody to want to spend their money with you. And you got to prove to them and then live up to it afterwards. It's like, I can't just sit back and run campaigns, throw leads over the fence. But forming that perspective of sales always made me stay close to sales. And eventually I hit that point that just said, like, dang, if I'm going to become like a really good CMO in the future, I should probably get some direct sales leadership experience and just learn it from the other side. And once I moved over to sales, I was fortunate enough to make the transition over to LinkedIn, where they were looking to bring somebody in that had marketing operator experience that could help them learn more about how marketing solutions could be a great fit for the technology companies that they were already seeing some success with. And so I was just really fortunate to find the right opportunity and the right leader in Jonathan Lister, who was looking for somebody to take a chance on and bring a marketer over and teach them some of the sales stuff. And so I was fortunate. And then once I was on the sales side, I just realized I ain't going back. I love it. I love working with the customers, working with the rev org. Like, it is my personality type.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that too. And so where can we follow you online, Mike?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to follow me. That is where I'm working on some new thought leadership blogs that I'll be posting there. So looking for me at Mike D. Weir on LinkedIn is the best place. From there, you'll see my Twitter handle is Mike D. Weir 21. I am not on Twitter as much, but LinkedIn is where I do a lot of my networking and thought leadership.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for coming on to the Revenue Hustle. I'm excited to share this with you and your community and with the Revenue Hustle community as well. There's a lot of wisdom you dropped today. So thank you again, and let's do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for tuning in to the Revenue Hustle. This episode has been brought to you by 9 Lenses. Close more deals with interactive assessments. Check them out at 9lenses.com. See you next time.